Hello, 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 and welcome to a brand new episode of Three Drams. As always, I am your host, Matt Healy. As we say in Ireland, Portmagee on Shut A Three Drams. I am absolutely delighted to be here with you guys once again. It is absolutely spectacular to be able to come to you every month and bring you some of the greatest and newest Irish whiskies direct to your door and, of course, to your YouTube. As I always say, it is very much not my show. I have the easy job of just showing up here, looking pretty, and talking to some great flavor makers and creators. It is the guys in Irish Malts. There's a team in there that not only puts together every month with the whiskies that we're going to be tasting, they also put together these great cards with all the information. They package and decant all of the whiskies. You know, we have to have a license to put Irish whiskey into bottles like this, and then they send it out in these great packs. Goes straight to your door, guys. And I have just had the great job of being able to sit here with you guys and talk to you about Irish whiskey. For this is now episode 47 to September 2024. But if anyone was around at the very beginning, we had one test episode, which would have been exactly a month before episode 1. And that means that this is the 4th anniversary of Three Drams. There's 4 years I've been coming to your living rooms, homes, phones. We've had people join us from their cars, which I don't encourage, but it happens. We've had people who are watching us from professional rugby teams. We have people who are sitting in izakayas in Japan and watching us. We've had people who have actually gone to space and watched Three Drams. We've had a fantastic 4 years already, and I am delighted to have you here this evening for what's just going to be a fantastic evening of whiskey, because we have 3 whiskeys on the board now that we're going to sit and enjoy together from 3 fantastic companies. We have the guys in Portmagee back again with a brand new expression to the show. Of course, we also have the guys from Walsh Whiskey bringing an Irishman expression to us as well, and a brand new Dingle whiskey that we're going to be trying this evening. So, of course, as always, let us know in the comments section if you have any questions. You also, if you're subscribed to Three Drams, you will get this discount code. It goes out at 8:45. You'll be able to get 1, 2, or all 3 whiskeys sent directly to your door at a discount. And what's even nicer for the producers, the discount comes from Three Drams. The producers get all the money they're supposed to be getting. So you jump on board, and the guys in the distilleries will absolutely love it. A very big hello to everyone who is watching the show currently. I'm seeing a good spread of very familiar faces. Marissa, Martin, Tina. I'm seeing the Walking Club in Schneem. I'm seeing our friends over in Germany as well. It is always great to see so many familiar faces here. I'm also seeing Marissa's coming from Madeira, because why not? That's exactly where we want to be when we're watching Three Drams. But again, we have 3 fantastic guests, no matter where you're watching from. And of course, everyone who watches after the fact, because we do have subscribers in Brazil, in Canada, in Western United States, in Australia, and in Japan. So all those people who are not watching live, a very big hello to you. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And I hope you are enjoying the show. So, guys, without further ado, I know we're not here to listen to me yammer on. We're going to get right in to our first whiskey of the evening, and I am delighted to say that this is our Portmagee. So I'm delighted to bring back to the show Mr. James Murphy. How are we doing, James? Delighted to have you.
Good to be back, Matt, and thanks for having us as always.
Not a problem at all. I will say we're looking fine. We're in the familiar space of Portmagee. Before the show, we did have a blip or two with our lovely internet services and the stormy night that it is here today. So if we have any clips or drops, it's definitely the internet's to blame, not the whiskey.
It's the fine Kerry internet we have here, Matt. you can't beat it.
Well, look, I'm going to pull up a picture of what we're tasting again here. This is your single pot still Irish whiskey. Lovely little triple distilled number here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what this is? Because few people already have it in the glass. I do here. This is.
I may as well join you.
That's it. Dram Ever One right there. There's the number one. You can see the half empty bottle. There you go. Beautiful. Oh, here come my dogs.
They must have smelt it. They're here for the whiskey.
Exactly. So James, why don't you jump us right in, because this is the third time Portmagee's been on the show, the second time you've joined us, but we have not had the chance to try your single pot still. So I'm gonna have a little color in the glass there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we have here?
So the first two whiskies we've tried in previous episodes, those were two blended whiskies, the Portmagee Small Batch and the Portmagee 9-year-old. So as anyone who's tuned in before, who knows us or whatever, our story is one of, I guess, smuggling. And that's how our village was formed, by a smuggler called Theobald McGee. And I guess the first two whiskies we released, so firstly, just to make it clear to everyone who's watching, we're under construction of our distillery here in Portmagee. So at the moment, to create our whiskies, we blend our whiskies, and we're doing that up in the Great Northern Distillery, John Teeling's place. So the first two whiskies we released were two blended whiskies, and we wanted to create three expressions of whiskies up in the Great Northern Distillery to create a kind of a trio of expressions to have a nice little kind of shelf display for ourselves. And obviously, the more we sell of these, all the money we pump back into our own whiskey development, or our own distillery development. But we wanted to move away from the blends. So we said we'd release a pot still, it being Ireland's quintessential style of whiskey. But I guess the link or that we always try and make between, I guess, the story of Portmagee and the whiskies that we're releasing is, I guess, single pot still was stumbled upon or invented by means of trying to avoid paying taxes on the double tax on the malted barley back in the 1800s. So because our village was founded on the same premise of tax evasion, we thought releasing a pot still would kind of fit into the kind of vibe of the story that we tell down here. So we went up to the Great Northern Distillery, and it's not me who does this, by the way. It's our third business partner, Stuart McNamara. He's our whiskey blender. He designs our whiskies for us. Myself and my brother are more the business side of things and the visitor experience side of things. But he was adamant we'd release a pot still. So he went up there. I'm trying to think of when we actually released our first cask. And I have this weird feeling that it was very earlier on, when you guys just started Three Drams, that we released our first cask of the single pot still, if I'm remembering it correctly. So it's around for about maybe 3.5 years now on the market. But we've actually only released 5 casks of it, because it's a very limited release that we actually do. So we went up to the Great Northern Distillery, and Stuart was kind of going through the different pot stills available, I suppose, and he hand select that each time you go up and select pots. But he selected a 4-year-old pot still, and then years onto that inside a Barbados rum cask. So our signature finish across the 3 whiskies that we produce is a Barbados rum cask. So we continued on that with the pot still. So essentially, we're finishing.
James, you might be struggling with your internet a little bit.
Pot still coming from. I think our connection is coming and going there, is it, Matt?
A little bit. I can't see you, but I can hear you. So why don't you keep telling us a little bit there, and we'll see if we can recover you now. I think we.
There we go. Is that better, Matt?
I can hear you. Yeah, you're back. Fantastic. I was going to say in 4 years,
my connection just.
I was going to say in 4 years, I haven't lost a guest midstream, so you've kept that streak going anyway.
it was so typical that it was me as well. It'd be totally something that happened to me. So I don't remember where I am bumped into there. 4 years, my word. Thank you very much.
Oh, don't mind John. Just given his moments in the sun.
Hi, John. How are you? So the pot still that we're selecting from the Great Northern Distilleries, in around 4 years is when we're selecting it. And then we're adding about just roughly under 2 years inside the Barbados rum cask. And then we release it. So it's somewhere between 5 and 6 years old when we release it. It changes every time we do a cask release. Not by decision, really. It's more financially. It's just when we can release a cask or we have enough bottles to release it. So sometimes it's a little bit older inside the Barbados, sometimes a little bit short. So We released this again roughly around 4 years ago, and we've only released 5 casks ever since. So it's a very rare whiskey to actually find outside of, I guess, our local area, and obviously Irish Malts supplies it to people for us as well. So if you were to find this anywhere, it's probably Irish Malts. That's the only place you really find it, other than maybe the Irish whiskey, the Celtic whiskey shop up in Dublin. They stock us when they can. Now, if you take your glass, guys, we're going to obviously give it a little swirl, and we'll give it a nose and sláinte. So for me, this is probably our most complex of all the 3 expressions. My personal favorite, now if I was to give you my 2 cents, is our 9-year-olds. That's my personal favorite, but this has its time and place, and it's usually Christmas time. I'd have a glass of this. It's kind of an occasional whiskey. Wouldn't be drinking it every day, but on a nice occasion, if friends over for Christmas or something like that, or birthday parties, break open a thing of this. But what I enjoy about it is the complexity of it. So the Barbados rum cask adds a lot of depth to the single pot still that's being used. So on the nose, and this is me personally, there's tasting notes on the back of this that our good friend Stuart has written, but I don't necessarily read it as the tasting notes on the back. So personally for me, this whiskey reminds me of my mother's Christmas cake and all the ingredients of a Christmas cake I find in it. So I would pick up almonds, marzipan, dried fruits, fruitcake, hints of dark chocolate in there as well. But the unusual one that I find out of it, there's kind of an aniseed or licorice element to it. So I have a lot of Americans that visit us. When they smell this, it reminds them of a candy that they'd have. They'd use the word candy. But if I was to tell you what it reminds me of, there used to be an old sweet shop in Portmagee that I used to go to as a kid. After school, you line up the seat. And the old fella's his name was John Michael. And his sweets were behind the counter. And you'd spend about half an hour with him saying, can I have 300 of those, 200 of those? And that kind of candy element to this whiskey reminds me of that shop because of the hard candies and stuff that we used to get. But aniseed and licorice, it's kind of on the nose for me. Now, I could spend ages nosing this. Listen to a good album, watch a good movie, and you're spending most of your time just here, bringing it back and down. And I just love the complexity of it. Every time I go back to it, there's something different in it. But I've done many tastings up in Portmagee with this now, and I guess the reaction I love to see is when people drink it, the nose doesn't quite match the palate. There's another kind of sweetness that you get inside the palate, and when people drink it, they go, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." Not in a bad way now, but it just has something different on the palate that you don't expect when you take in the nose. And if I was to give you what I think it is, it's that kind of apple or toffee apple sweetness that you get across the board with all our whiskies. And I maintain that that's a kind of consistency of the Barbados rum cask that kind of continues through all the 3 expressions that we have. But when I taste it or when I put it onto the mouth, even though it's relatively young, it's less than 6 years old, you won't get the spice on the front of the drink at all, which you kind of usually get with the younger whiskies. It comes in on the very end. So it's quite smooth on the palate when you drink it. And if you were to wash it around your mouth, that's generally what I'll do. I'll coat my gums with it. When you swallow, that's when the spice comes in, and it comes in pretty hard at the end. You'll notice that it's very smooth here, but once you swallow, it kind of takes over your mouth with the spice, and it lingers there for ages. Good 2-3 minutes. That finish will just stick with you, and just keeps going. Builds up a lot of saliva, and kind of the flavors kind of just keep evolving. And I'll always find myself just sitting there watching the movie or listening to the album. And all those flavors are just kind of coming to life with it. But we'll say sláinte, I suppose, and we'll have a little sip of it. But hope you enjoy, guys. So for me now, I haven't felt the spice until about now. And then the spice starts coming in, and I feel it on the gums and my cheeks and all that. And it's just building up a load of saliva already. And it just keeps going, just lingers there for ages, which is what I enjoy about it. Now, one of the weird ways I describe this, and I don't hear too many people describing whiskey this way, but it reminds me of a hot sauce, just that lingering spice that just stays in your mouth. Nothing to do with the flavor of a hot sauce, but I love good hot sauce, and I love that lingering of the spice on the mouth. I just love it, and it just stays there for ages, still bouncing around my mouth there. So for me, that's not my daily medicine. The 9-year-old is my daily medicine. But Christmas time, special occasions, this is a lovely whiskey to break open with friends. And I guess when we released it as well, I suppose we released the first 2 the two blends, they were designed to be easy drinking, and the target market for those two blends were tourists that visit Portmagee. So we're trying to create as easy a drinking whiskey as we possibly could. Whereas with the pot still, we kind of made this for more the aficionado, and we wanted to do something that was easy drinking, but had a kind of complexity and something unusual about it that the aficionados in the room would kind of gravitate towards and say, I don't think I have anything quite like this. And that's the reaction I get a lot doing the actual tours that we do in Portmagee. Americans love their Irish whiskey, and when they come over and they try this particular pot still, a lot of them will say, geez, I've never had something quite like that. So it's a very kind of unique pot still with the Barbados rum cask, just adding that twist to it. And as I said, we've only released 5 casks of that, and every bottle will have an individual number, the cask number, and the year that was bottled. So since about 3.5 years ago, we've only released 5 casks of that. So what you're drinking is something that you generally won't find in most stores unless you come kind of down to the South Kerry area. Now, you said you had a few German listeners in. Well, we've actually shipped maybe about 5 or 6 pallets into Germany, and all 3 expressions have landed in there now. Where they've gone in particular shops and areas, I couldn't tell you, but they are available in very limited stores in Germany. But it's also available on Amazon.de if you want to go down that route. But I wouldn't suggest that because it's actually more expensive than coming from Irish malts. And Irish malts, I guess the shipping rates are very, very good anyway. So I anytime I'm here with people from Europe or maybe Americans or whatever, it's always the Irish malts. I'll send them to actually pick up a bottle because at least you know it's there. Whereas if I tried sending them to somewhere else, it just mightn't be there because we're such small batch producers that it's just impossible for us to actually saturate any market whatsoever. But yeah, that's our pot still, and Christmas whiskey. That's what it is.
There you go. 40% ABV. Do you know the RRP on it?
It's RRP is €90, and I believe you guys have 5 cent off it. Or I shouldn't say you guys, but Irish malts have 5 cent off.
Irish malts,
so that's a bargain right there.
Passing on that saving.
Yeah.
For those who've been listening to us talk between now and the 2 previous times we've been on, I've been asking about the distillery as well. Do you have any updates on the physical aspects of the distillery, stills, brewing equipment?
Yeah, nothing on the equipment side just yet. We're this winter now, we're actually hoping to break ground on the actual foundations, but the way we're building this is very, very slow. This is a good years-long project before the distillery will actually be up and running. But this winter, we're hoping to break ground on the actual building itself. Just had material ordered there, insulating roofs of our old RIC barracks, which will be the kind of whiskey tasting area of the distillery. So we're about to sandblast the old stone building as well, just to clear all the sand, and we'll be repointing it and stuff. So there's ongoing work, but it's all just tiny little steps. But this winter now, hopefully we'll break some ground on the actual foundation. And then hopefully the year after that, we're lining ourselves up to get a little bit of grant aid or a bit of funding coming from the local enterprise. And hopefully that'll help us secure our distillery equipment. But yeah, ongoing process. I don't know what I said to you last time. I'm pretty sure I was saying the same thing, but about 3 years from now, I would say that our distillery will be actually built and be up and running. But there's a 3-year process. There's a long road ahead of us before that's actually achieved, I suppose. But yeah, still hammer and chisel in hand and literally building it ourselves. So chipping away at it. I will say as well, with our 5th cask of this pot still being released, this is probably the last one of these that we release at 40%. The next cask, we're going to move it up to 46%. We did a bit of an experiment and we just tried it and did it at the 46 just to test it out ourselves. And it, just personally, I think it improved it. And if I was to say the reason that we brought it down to 40 in the first place was just to make it a little bit easier to drink for the non-whiskey drinkers that visit Portmagee. That was the idea of bringing it down to the 40%. And if I was to be a bit cynical as well, just as we were beginning the company, the 40% gave us a few extra bottles to sell. So now that we're kind of established a little bit better, we're going to bring this up to about 46% ABV then for the next release, cask number 6 of it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, James. I really appreciate you introducing us to that single pot still. It is great to have you back on the show. no doubt, when we hit our 7th birthday, I'm expecting the doors of Portmagee whiskey to be wide open for
Fingers
a big
crossed. Fingers crossed.
Well,
I
thank
hope
you
so
so
too.
much, everyone in the comments section. If you have enjoyed this, please let us know, because I've certainly enjoyed this, especially that nose and palate combination was a fun one for me. So, James, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having us again, and we'll be on anytime you want us. Appreciate it.
Fantastic, love it. Well, I am delighted to have had Portmagee on again, but now we are moving on to our second James of the evening, James Kilgannon, who is joining us from the US of A, coming in by telecommute for Irishman, Irish whiskey. So, James, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
How you doing, Matt? Yeah, thanks for having me. Can't really complain having an excuse to drink whiskey at 12 o'clock in the morning, which is quite handy. Well, lunch.
Afternoon. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine. I think that's reasonable. It's it's
yeah,
8 o'clock at home. We can excuse it.
yeah. Okay, like it's raining there, is it? I have, I think, 25 degrees sun here, so yeah, no, loving
You'll get loads of sympathy, James. Loads of sympathy.
it.
Well, this is our second whiskey of the evening, Caribbean cask, or Caribbean for anyone of a North American persuasion. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this whiskey? This is Dram Iverado right here. I'm going to pour this into the glass while we have it in front of us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But want to say hi, guys. Thanks for everybody for joining and listen to us talk about whiskey. Always love doing it, but yeah, I suppose what we're going to try now is we're Amber Beverage Group and Walsh Whiskey. So Walsh Whiskey would be the Riders Tears and the Irishman range of Irish whiskey. So where the Riders Tears range is always going to focus on, I would say, celebrating single pot still whiskey in different ways. The Irishman range is going to very much focus on single malt and celebrating triple distilled Irish single malt and seeing how we can kind of play around with it and kind of bring Irish single malt to more people globally. So the name, I suppose, of the whiskey we're trying, the Irishman. So Walsh Whiskey was set up by Bernard Walsh, who I think has been on the show. Yeah, I think he has been, yeah, in the past.
Yeah, yeah.
So Bernard Walsh would have set up the brand, the Irishman, and the first introduction that he would have had to whiskey was his granddad. So he used to basically read the newspaper to his granddad and pour him a measure of whiskey, and his granddad would drink single malt whiskey. He used to read him the newspaper because his granddad was actually blind. So that's why on every single Irishman bottle there's Braille on it that says the Irishman, because it's a nod to respect to his granddad, but then also a nod to what he saw as the most traditional Irishman, reading the newspaper, having a whiskey. That's kind of where the brand would have came from. So I suppose with celebrating single malt, we're looking at, okay, how can we kind of bring more people into the single malt category? And we're going to be kind of honest with how the Irish whiskey industry is that most people who try Irish whiskey, they're going to try Jameson, and that's going to be their first introduction, or Tullamore Dew or Bushmills would be their first kind of introduction to the world of Irish whiskey. And a lot of those people want to make the jump to just say a single malt whiskey, so a single malt or a single pot still whiskey. But that's actually a really, really big jump for a lot of people in terms of flavor, complexity, warmth, and a lot of people make that jump, try it, and then they come back and they go back to the old reliable. And then there's people like us who are all sitting down drinking three whiskeys who made that jump and went, yes, that is 100% for me. So we kind of knew that. So where the Irishman sits is we have a fleet of single malt whiskies being our kind of flagship single malt, our 12, our 17, our legacy. But the first one would be called the Harvest. So this is you say originally called the Founders Reserve, but then we just refreshed the brand and called it the Harvest. And what the Harvest is a blend between single malt and single pot still. So no grain whiskey going in there. So we created this product that's 70% single malt, 30% single pot still, matured in bourbon for about 5 to 7 years, and it creates kind of a middle ground for people to jump up to the world of single malt, where you're getting a nice little bit of spice and pot still, the warmth and single malt, but it's just in between what you would have as a 100% single malt. And we unfortunately have to call it a blended whiskey, because there is no category for a blend of pot still whiskey and single malt whiskey. There's not a word for it except for blend. So the harvest was very, very well received. And when you're looking at, okay, how do we elevate this product? How do we kind of amplify the notes? So it's triple distilled, so it's always going to have a lovely fruity nose. It's got a touch of pot still in there, so it's going to be nice and spicy. So we're looking at, okay, what casks are going to, one, be accessible to people who are still making that jump up to single malt, but also amplify those notes. And we settled on San Lucia rum casks for this release. So we took our initial harvest and then we matured it for a period of, you'll see on the internet, 6 months. It's everywhere. You'll see everyone says 6 months. It's not 6 months. It's up to around a year. So some can be about 8 months, other ones can be 12, 13. But for some strange reason, 6 months is everywhere. So we put it in the San Lucia rum cask for half a year to a year and a half, to overlay a lot of fruitiness over the top to match that triple distilled fruits and to kind of really amplify the spiciness and the kind of sweetness from the malt as well. And what you get, I find, is it's very, very fruity on the nose, like extremely fruity. You can really like dig deep into it, and like you still get your apples and pears, but there is mangoes, kind of your more fleshy fruits. I get apricots. I don't get papaya because I've never had a papaya in my life. I don't know what it tastes like. But yeah, I'll still write it on tasting notes because it looks good. But mangoes, apricots, really, really fleshy, fruity nose in it, but then a very, how would you say, intense spice. Very, very warming, bordering on Christmassy. But lots of cloves, lots of almost, and I know James said earlier, kind of almost star anise and aniseedy element to it. You get that kind of on the spice of the palate. And for us, I suppose it's been a limited edition, and it's kind of just, originally it was done as one cask, and it was originally done as one cask for the American market. And we put it out there, and it'd be individually bottle numbered and all that. And like anything, you put it out there, people go over to the US, they try it, and then they bring it back to Germany, and they give it to their friends, and then you get German people emailing going, hey, where can we buy this here? And then it comes to Ireland and more people ask for it. So where it originally was just a one single cask release, it's grown now its legs to, I think this year's bottling was about 15 to 18,000 bottles a year. So let me do the maths on how many casks that is. So it's grown its legs from starting in the US to being a worldwide release now. And while we do call it limited, it's not a one-off limited release. It will come year on year. So we'll batch it up. We'll get our casks. From the rum casks that we use Chairman Reserve. So we use Chairman Reserve rum casks. So nice fruitiness, nice sweetness, and nice kind of spiciness to the whiskey. And for me, I think it's nice, vibrant, and with that 46% as well, it just packs that little bit more of a punch and allows that spice to linger a little bit more and cut through the sweetness of the rum.
Well, on that, do you want to take a sip?
Yep, absolutely.
So let's launch it to you guys.
I actually don't have a glass, so I'm going to go straight from the bottle.
That is a first. I like that.
I was going to go down and ask for a glass and bring it up, and then once it got close enough to the stream, I knew I had forgotten something, and that was that. But very fruity on the nose. Like really, I suppose for me, huge amounts of like fleshy fruits, if that makes sense. Like, as in, I always find it shocking that comes through from the rum and overlays so well. Apricots, mangoes, it's quite sweet, but also this kind of, I always feel like a petit filou is You know, the yogurt that we had in as kids, the Petit Filou, that real rich apricot sweetness and like a creaminess to it as well.
So on the palate, it's so bright rum influence. Like
Mm.
it almost tastes like I'm drinking a dark rum.
Mm.
There's so much influence on the palate. What size casks are these? Just in 200 liters casks?
Yeah, they're typical 200-liter casks. So now the casks, they're like with all rum casks, they're very, very temperamental. So where some of them you'll get a lot of vibrant spice in them, other ones would be very fruity. But obviously, when we were doing it in much smaller batches, there was a lot more variation. But now that it's scaled up a little bit, we can better control that we're having that fruitiness on the nose. But yeah, the real treacly, as you said, that rum treacle brown sugar palette that you get on this.
Absolutely. What is the ORP on this?
So this is available in Irish malts, and then in Germany we are present. We're in I know we're on Amazon .de, and then we're in your independent kind of more retail stores. So we'd be floating at about 60 to 70 would usually be the recommended retail price, depending on the country taxes. And then across, in Ireland, we're in the UK as well, in your independent retailers, and then across in the Cavis in France as well.
And you'll see it as you mentioned, it is limited, but you'll see it usually year round. People aren't waiting for an annual drop to get their hands on this.
Yeah, so I suppose scale wise for us, like with our brands like the Irishman, Harvest, and the single malt, we'll always have those. They'll be floating around. But for the rest, with the kind of Caribbean cast, the 12 to 17, we'll do those on allocation. So we'll basically find out how much we're going to have, and then we will, once we get all the bits and bobs together and get it together, we'll send it out. So at the moment, I think it is around, this year's batch was around 15 to 18,000 bottles.
And in terms of the Irishman family, I know you mentioned a couple of the SKUs there, the expressions. How many expressions is the family at the Irishman family at this point? Because it always seems to be something new coming through each year.
Yeah, so I suppose with the two families, Rider Steers is a lot bigger range. There's always new products being released. But with the Irishman, I suppose it's a little bit more refined, but it is growing. So we're the Harvest as like your introduction into the Irishman range, then the Caribbean cask, which we're trying, which is that step up. Then we move to our single malt, our 12, which is aged in bourbon, our 17-year-old, which is fully matured in sherry. And then we have a legacy release as well, which is our single malt matured in Chateauneuf-du-Pape wine casks for about 15 months. And that's in celebration of the Red Book of Austria and the 700 years of whiskey distilling tradition. Can I see it in the back? Oh, I do see it. Yeah,
There it is.
it is.
Yeah, there's a
It
tiny
is.
amount left in the bottle.
We'll have to get you another one because it's like every time I get a sample bottle, it's like it's gone. Between me and my family all drinking it, it is an exceptional whiskey. And that will be continuing as well. There's still stock of that, so it is shipping worldwide. I think Ireland have it, France don't have it, Germany I think do have it, but it might not be on Amazon. I think it might be only in some of the independent retailers. But unfortunately, I can't check Master Malt to see and any of the retailers and Amazon because my laptop won't allow me over here. But we have as well the cast strength release. So that would be the Punchy Harvest. So it'd be every year we do an annual kind of small bottling of 3,000 bottles of the Harvest bottled at cast strength.
Well, I think that the comment section is certainly loving this whiskey.
Yeah,
so I'm thinking that there's a lot of love for these tropical fruits in the glass. So I am delighted to see and hear it. For me, it's fantastic. That big rum influence. Rum influences can be subtle. They can be sweet. They can be fruity. But this is kind of very large and punchy. And I'm a big fan of the Harvest as well. And it's a nice elevation from the flavors that are there already. So I think from the people in the comment section, they're certainly enjoying themselves. If you were to leave people with a quick elevator pitch of what people should know about the Caribbean cask, what kind of top line information do you want people to go away with?
Yeah, I suppose it's for the main thing I would kind of look at, like the Harvest and the Caribbean cask, is that it's definitely interesting enough for your seasoned whiskey drinker, for people who have a collection as good as yours in the back, for people who know whiskey and enjoy it. But we've also made it that it is accessible for people who are looking to get into whiskey, that it's not too heavy. It is accessible, the flavors are there, and it's not too, how to say, powerful. So for people who are a now and again whiskey drinker, or even just don't drink a whole lot but are looking to get into it, we want to make sure that our whiskies are available for them as well. And in terms for the Irishman, again, I didn't say age on it. For this, you're looking at about 5 to 7. Actually, this would probably be actually more up at about 8, about 6 to 8 years old for this whiskey. It will change and vary depending on the rum cask, but it will always have, as people said, that fruity nose and that kind of really warming spice on the palate with that malt warmth.
Well, absolutely fantastic. James, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you're only at the beginning of your day over there in California. And I'm so sorry that you couldn't get you. We should have shipped you a glass had we known
Yes.
of your logistical issues. But thank you so much for introducing the Irishman Caribbean cask to us. 46% in that 60 to 70 euro range, depending where you are in the world. Is that correct, James?
Yeah, about 60 to 70 euro. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, James, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and introducing this whiskey to us. And I hope you have a great rest of your sunny day over there in California.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for having us. And I hope everyone enjoyed the 2 whiskeys we've had so far and enjoys the next one too.
Well, perfect. Thanks so much, James. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Well, very rarely do we have people joining us from California, but here we are. We started in Kerry. We're going to end our way in Kerry because we have the lovely Dave Cummins, Beardy Dave, joining us for Dingle's brand new single pot still whiskey that is for 2024. So welcome to the show, Dave. How are you doing?
Not too bad, lad. Not too bad. All is good.
I'm delighted to have you. I'm going to pull up my glass. I'm going to pull up my whiskey. I'm going to pour one into the other. I have the bottle sat right. This inverted camera thing throws me out all the time. Right behind me. I am excited to try this with you on stream for the first time. Tell me all about it. This is your, forgive me, is it Wheel of the Year series?
Yeah, Celtic Wheel of the Year series, and it's the 8th release. Technically, it should have been the last release, but sure, we're Dingle. We like to throw in an extra one for the crack. Yeah, so it's Connacht on 4, which is the autumn equinox, and it's a single malt aged in bourbon, finished in predominantly Caribbean rum casks, and batched at 50.5.
I have nothing to do with picking the whiskies for this. But dear God, I couldn't have made a rummier night than.
I know. When I got the pack, I was like, "Whoa, this is rum."
Yeah. All right. As soon as I stuck my nose into it, I was like, "I think this is rum again." That's Come on, you're gonna blow us out of the wall. We started at pot still. We're ending on pot still. Tell us all about this and why it's not the last of the Wheel of the Year series.
So it's a single malt.
Yes. Jesus, sorry. Well, yeah, that would help if I got the category right.
Yeah.
My apologies. Single malt.
No, the next one, the last one is going to be a pot still, but this the second last one technically what was the last one, because there is only 8 symbols or 8 traditions or celebrations in the Wheel of the Year. The first 4 would be fire festivals like your Samhain, your Breach, Imbolc, Bealtaine, Lunasa, and then you've got the ones that revolve around, let's say, the solstice and the equinoxes. So you've got Gira, Erig, Saura, and then this last one, the autumn equinox 4. So yeah, it's just I suppose Dingle, we were turning 10, what was it now, 2 years ago? Is it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years. I keep forgetting what year we're in. We're in 2024, 2 years ago. And I suppose we were kind of like, a lot of people were like, are you going releasing a 10-year-old? Are you going releasing a 10-year-old? And we were like, no, we'll probably wait a couple of years if we are going to do something like that. We did release one for the town. The lovely people of the world crashed our website afterwards. We gave the town the choice of one bottle each, all the different pubs and restaurants, and then I think there was about 140 bottles left, and it crashed our website for a day. So that was great crack. But yeah, so we decided to show off some of the other casks that we have in the warehouse, because we only, before our core release and the batches, which you have some behind you there, we only showcase 5 casks. So we have about 20 to 30 different cask types in the warehouse. So we were like, right, we've about 2.5 years, 3 years before we maybe want to release another core product or an age statement. So we were like, let's showcase some of these casks. And the reason we did 50.5 is because of the lovely people commenting here and commenting at other tastings. They were like, we're not afraid of a bit more strength. We want something that's kind of cask strength, but not fully cask strength. So all these whiskies in the Wheel of the Year would be 7 years or older. They're aged for about 4.5 years in first fill bourbon, and then transferred for another 3.5 years into a second first fill cask. So I would kind of call it a double maturation. You can call it a finish if you like, but me, I'd probably call it a double maturation because it's longer it's a good stint of time in the second cask. But this one, yeah, finished in predominantly Caribbean rum casks. Folks, start tasting if you like. Don't be waiting on me. I don't like people having dry mouths tastings. I'm not one of these people that talks for 45 minutes before you get to drink. I prefer you getting your lips wet. But yeah, so it's just 50.5, non-chill filtered. We just wanted to show off some of the other kind of unique casks that we had in the warehouse. And then to celebrate a lot of the Celtic Wheel of the Year, a lot of those festivals are still very big in Dingle. Like Bealtaine is a big, massive festival in Dingle. 4 is actually known as the second harvest. Lunasa would be the first. So 4 is kind of like where, like between the 21st and 23rd of September, it's where night and day become equal in the amount of time. And it's kind of like when everyone starts getting ready for hibernating. It's when farmers, apart from this summer, because it was crap, farmers generally get their last or their second harvest in before things stop really growing. So yeah, we just wanted to celebrate our Celtic and pagan traditions, and that's what we did. So that's why there will be only 8 symbols on the bottles, but there will actually be 9 releases.
But if there's only 8 festivals, what's the 9th release?
The 9th release is for Dingletown. We always have to give a nod to our lovely hometown, because like that's the one thing I always say to people, like Dingle, whiskey, gin, vodka, it's not just about the spirit or the whiskey that's inside, it's the town and the people that are part of it. Because like the distillery employs about 20 to 30 staff with the tours and production, and then there's about 6 or 7 of us running around like mad Egypts from Dublin all over the place. So yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
and
it's
new marketing or newish marketing manager and Connie Mallock.
Yeah, the madman. Yeah,
good man from the town. Yeah,
we've got 2 more Dingle people on board. So we'd Fiach, that you was on with you the last time. Fiach worked with us for the graduate program in the UK, and he's back. He's from Dingle. And then Connie, who used to work for grants for Tullamore Dew and Fever Tree and all that, he's back working. Yeah, back in your time, you were working with him.
Yeah, I worked with him. He was New Jersey, I was Pennsylvania. We were right beside each other. Yeah,
he's a legend. So yeah, it's really good that, and just more of that Dingle family as well. It's great,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, from a business point of view, if we shed the Three Drams umbrella for a second, but from a business point of view, having people of the town working in the town is fantastic. There's longevity, there's pride of place, there's ownership. If you have loads of Dubs and Brits working in Dingle Distillery, and that doesn't
we do have one.
Yeah,
We slagged enough about it. Don't worry.
I actually didn't know you had a Brit. I was playfully referring to an old sales manager that used to tell me about his vintage watch collection in his.
Oh, I know that old sales manager.
Wearing ascots and British hunting jackets, and I didn't really think that. I didn't think it resonated with a shed in West Kerry, but
no.
But having people of the town very much imbues you of the place, you know. So if I go to Undruckit Bjug or Foxy's or to Super Value or to Dick Max, there's a love and a pride of place that you know the people there want to celebrate the distillery, and that only comes from a two-way admiration, you know. And in the same way that, you know, Dick Mack's a very famous pub, they started a microbrewery, and one of the shocks to maybe me and maybe the owners of Dick Mack's is half the pubs in the town wanted to stock Dick Mack's beer, you know, which is a competing pub, you know, but they all wanted to celebrate their
it is
town.
like when you think about when Dingle first started, like there wasn't really that many distilleries in Ireland, and Oliver and Liam going round and Peter going round the town going, listen, we're building a distillery, will you support us? Like most people had never heard of a distillery being built or seen one being built, and the whole town was like, yeah, we'll support you, we'll put the stock on the shelves, and we'll chat to customers. Like even tours, the amount that the pubs and the restaurants and Super Value and Centra, they send people down to us for tours. It's amazing. And it's great. It's very, like, for me, it is, as you said, it's a kind of a town thing. It's a two-way street. We throw an old shindig for them every year, which is great crack. The town of Dingle is closed the next day because some bodies don't make it home. But yeah, it's like we love them for it because they're part of us. We're part of them. It's very much that, like, it's that whole thing of you are from where you are. It's that, you know, and the whiskey is from where it is, you know, and that I suppose we've always had this conversation that, like, and we're getting to that point now where we're going to be able to taste like 10 different whiskies from all across the country and really see the different characteristics in them all, which is going to be absolutely phenomenal. It's going to be great. It's going to be great crack for everybody.
I was thinking that tasting this a moment ago that it reminds me of the core range malt that you have.
Yeah.
But because of that Dingle character, like there's a very recognized with maybe some of the earlier releases when it was the fresh batches. You know, I've batched one there, and then I've got some of the pot stills 3 and 4 and malts and stuff. It's young, it's spirituous, it's sprightly, and then as it matures, you start to see the Dingle core DNA.
And the characteristic that makes up the Dingle, especially like the single malt and then the single pot still, they have their character. It's that kind of deep, rich, kind of earthy tones to it, but then also that kind of savory, sweet. Some people get saltiness to it, but it is that Dingle character that you're going at, and that's the whole thing. It's like marrying that character of your single malt or your pot still with the cask, that no matter what you're tasting, as you said, you're going to be able to taste the Dingle character in it, which is, that's what we're really after at the end of the day, so that people, when they try it, they know it's Dingle, you know?
Absolutely. Always characters in Dingle Distillery as well.
Yes.
From the tour guides to people working the shops and everything on the floors. There was my very first tour of Dingle Distillery, I think, was in like 2013, and Sean from Porterhouse Brewery now.
He's in Stillgarden now.
Oh, is he still? My apologies, Stillgarden now. I haven't kept up. I apologize. I'll have to connect with him on LinkedIn.
He's from the People's Republic of Cork.
But he realized that everyone on our tour, bar me, were engineers and scientists. So the tour became wildly technical, which I love. Like it was just like I was with a group of scientists, and there happened to be a group of engineers, and he was like, "Screw this script. I'm going to start telling you the real information." And then an ex-cop whose name I've forgotten at this point. Joe, that's it.
Joe is a madman. Joe's
the most unhinged tasting I've ever had in my life, which I'll never forget.
He's a legend.
brought,
He's a legend. He's hilarious.
yeah.
You'd
Oh,
hear
absolutely.
people flag me for being loud, but by God, you'd hear Joe miles away.
And again, of the town, he was a local guard sergeant or something.
Yeah. Local sergeant, yeah. And retired, and then was like, here, come on, I'll give you the hand. He was great. He was absolutely deadly. He'd always end up turning it back to 1916 in some way.
Well, before we digress too far, why don't you give us a little bit of we'll do a proper look at this whiskey, and then we'll talk about the price of it as well if we can.
Yeah. So like, again, as I said, all the Celtic Wheel of the Year series are 7 years or older, but we wanted to celebrate our Celtic and pagan traditions. So hence there's no way, but they are 7 and older. Generally 4.5 years in the bourbon cask, and then 3.5 years in the second cask. I did ask Graham and Paddy for specifics, but they kept changing their mind every time I asked them. And they were like, look, they're 7 years and over. That's all you need to know. So I was like, grand. So yeah, predominantly Caribbean rum cask. So you do get that depth of flavor. You get that, the bourbon gives you a nice start to the whiskey. And then you're going to get that sweetness. Like, I've been playing around with this. Something keeps jumping in my head, but like, I always just get that burnt brown sugar, that little hint of apple in it. But like, there's something else in there that I just can't put my finger on. But that's the beauty. Everyone tastes something different. Again, 50.5. If you're having a bad day, don't add water. If you're having a good day, don't add water. It's all good, you know. So like, you know, work away. The beauty, you can, like, we at tastings, everyone was like, give us more strength. We're not afraid of it, because all our whiskey is batched at 46 and above, non-chill filtered, no colouring added. So we were like, grand, our 7 year, roughly, depending on the cask, will generally come out about 59 to 61 or 62. So we only brought it down a little bit, down to 50.5 for the single malts. And then in the pot stills in this range, they're 52.5. So don't be afraid to add water if you want to add water. Taste it first, I'd always say, and then after that, you make it your own. That's the thing. We're just putting it in the bottle at what we think it's the best at, but you make it your own, you know?
Well, I'm going to have another little sip. I'm going to enjoy it, and I will... what was the RRP on it?
Oh, €85. Available Irish malts, any good independents. We've shipped some to the Netherlands with Whiskey Centre. Some's gone to Kursk in Germany, so that'll be out in all the good independents across Germany. It's gone out in the UK. Literally, I think I just did a tasting there last week, and it just landed the day before I did the tasting. So it landed there, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. But yeah, pretty much where most people, but Irish malts, and then any good independent will have it, you know? Just ask for it as well. That's the thing. That's the same with any Irish whiskey, folks. If you don't see it, ask for it, or else they ain't going to get it in.
Well, Whiskey Pep literally just jumped in saying that over 50% is the way. Then I remember John McCarthy saying he bought his very first Dingle whiskey in the old square bottles. That was probably eons ago at this point.
Oh yeah,
pre the distillery.
Yeah, that was a funny thing for for trade show.
I was going to say that those square bottles didn't last a long time.
No, so they were given away half the time for free and given to mates and stuff, and because it was a trade show that they were told that was going to be, they wanted to showcase what Irish whiskey would be in years to come, and there were one of the boards in Ireland asked them, the lads, to go over and do it, and they did it, and sure, it wasn't even 1/10 the crowd, so the lads had all this whiskey, and they were like, what the flip? So they brought it back and just started selling in the pub, giving it to people. You still see them every so often in random spots, you know? It's like an old dodgy stamp.
That's it. Alan's saying he's already bought this bottle and it is amazing, which is great. But Tina's saying she bought the first batch, which wasn't available in Germany, but James Fox has sorted her out. Yeah, which I'm delighted about as well.
I literally got somebody asking me today where they could get batch 1 and batch 2, and I was like, come on. I was like, holy crap. It's like, that's, blast from the past. I was like, whoa, that's going to be, you know. It's funny, like, we have moved on a lot. Like, we have been we've done the batches of single malt, single pot stills, the Celtic Wheel of the Year, and then now, as we've been chatting between ourselves in Dingle and that, we're like, right, now's the time for the teenagers to become adults. So I think next year you're going to start seeing more core from Dingle. So if you like any of the Celtic Wheel of the Year, folks, they're limited. There's only 4,000 bottles of this for the whole world. Once it's gone, it's gone. Yeah, and next year hopefully you might see some more. Hopefully some mainstays from Dingle.
Fair. And of course, my particular favorite, what I always have in the house, Dingle Gin, still doing the rounds. You'll find it in your in it all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
I get mine in Tesco particularly. I used to have an off license right beside my house called Just Divine, Jews of In. Which
Richie and Julie there. Yeah,
absolutely, Richie and Julie in there, and that was one of the best things I ever had, particularly during COVID. This A standard off license right by my house, and I've moved to Wicklow Town, and we only have supermarkets. Yeah, is the only thing we have, and probably I really love the carry out off licenses.
Yeah,
and it's like we have one carry out here, and it's like the dodgiest carry out I've ever been in. It's like everything's behind like bulletproof glass. Like the people are unfriendly. I went in like 3 times. I'm not going back. I buy my Dingle Gin in Tesco now for my sins. But it's still my mainstay. It's my number one gin. I freaking love it. I presume we're not going to be seeing that going anywhere. Dingle Gin, Dingle. I haven't seen Dingle Vodka in a while in Tesco.
It actually jumped a lot the last while. Like since after COVID, like I'd say our Dingle Vodka sales vodka and whiskey kind of went through the roof. Really, because a lot of people looking locally, especially after COVID, which was great. You know, looking that they were like, oh, we actually produced this here in Ireland and buying it. So yeah, a lot of people started paying more attention to what was around them in the local area, which was great. But yeah, the gin, like I always make the joke of it's the longest winner or the longest winner of the world's best gin, because we won it just before COVID and there wasn't an awards for 2 years, so we're 3 years the world's best gin since 2019. But yeah, it was that winning that award was actually really good for Dingle, but really good for Irish spirits in general, because you had an awful lot of places that would have overlooked Irish spirit, thinking, oh, you can't make it as good as other places. And then when Dingle won that, it kind of made everyone, again, look at Ireland and what we're doing here in Ireland. Not just us, but all the other producers, you know, which is great, you know?
Absolutely. Well, Barry Dave, I am so pleased to have had you on the show again for our 4th anniversary. I'm delighted to have it. One of the very first people I met in the industry when I joined the industry.
I remember a few mad dashes of whiskey and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a very big thank you to you and for introducing us to this brand new Celtic Wheel of the Year series. Single malt, 50.5% ABV. You said €80?
85 euro. Yeah, the single malts are 85. The pot stills will be 95. Again, just the ABV kind of kicks it up to that kind of price a little bit as well, you know. So, but yeah, but like, congrats to John, Lavinia, yourself, Irish Malts, and just Three Drams, 4 years. I remember when this baby was just getting off the ground. It was great, you know.
It's funny because I have been the host for all of those 4 years, back from the first episode. And I do want to say a shout out, because Tina has been probably our longest running. And we have a lot of regular people that watch the show. But the fact that Tina was here for the test episode, which was exactly 4 years ago, is great. So thank you so much for being here for this anniversary. But it was funny because when Three Drams started, the original idea was that it would be a different host every month. And I was to do the test episode, figure it out, and the first episode, and then there was an agreement that I'd come back like every 4 or 5 weeks, right? And there was some form of agreements, disagreements going on in the background with other hosts, and I've been here for 4 years. So, and I think from an organizational and logistical point of view, that would have been hell for trying to get a new host every week
But
or
you
every month.
keeping the ship steady, keeping it going. That's the main thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, Beardy Dave, very big thank you to you. I really appreciate it. To everyone who's watching live, a huge thank you to you guys. To everyone who's watching back after the fact, huge thank you to you guys, whether you're not in a bad time zone, you couldn't watch it live, or just you were doing something else and you decided to join us. A very big thank you to you guys. 3 fantastic whiskies. We've had Portmagee, the Irishman, and now, of course, you've had Dingle. A huge thank you to the guys at Irish Malts and to everyone watching at home. Let us know in the comments section if you have a 1, 2, 3 of what you tasted this evening, which is your favorite. Of course, it matters not. Everyone's taste profile is different. It's just always interesting to see. Marissa saying the highlight of my month. Thank you so much. I am always fantastically happy to see yourself, Martin, Tina, the walking clubs, John McCarthy. We also have Beardy Dave's doppelganger who joins us quite regularly. Where we have Dave Cummins, we also have Dave Cummings.
Oh my God, that gets so confusing. Oh my God, the amount of times that has caused apps, and he'd send me a message on social media going, "I'm really sorry."
Well, thank you so much to you guys and to the guys who make this all possible, which is the Three Drams team in Irish Malts. To you, good night, and we'll see you next month for episode 48. Have a good one.